Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus Andrews. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Pendo. This is Eric Iwashita.
Nice to meet y'all. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Guides and Resource Center, so lucky to talk to y'all about guides today.
That's right. That's right. And why guides go wrong and what you can do about them. Do you want to progress? We can just go right to the next slide. Okay. So you guys use guides. I'm sure people here love guides. If you love guides, can you tell me? Can you just raise yes? You can love guides. It's okay to love guides. You're in a safe space to love guides. I promise. It's kind of a weird thing. They're like an inanimate object, I guess, right? But they're cool. No other tool can really like help you change and shape the product experience without a single line of code, quite like guides can. But guides, my friends, guides are at risk because there is a very, very thin line between a guide that is like helpful and improves the product experience and a guide that is frustrating for users and annoying and makes the product experience less good. And it's something we're seeing a little bit more and more of. And me and Eric, we love guides, right? You guys love guides. So we don't want to see this happen. We don't want to see what happens when guides go wrong. When guides are in the wrong hands, they can become a Band-Aid that people kind of slap into the product and never take off. They're too long. They're put in place with no real reason. There's lots of different reasons why guides can go wrong, and we want to help you fix that. And we can do that with product, right? Like Eric can build beautiful things that help you use guides to create a better product experience, like conversions and experiments. But we also want to give you another tool today, something that's going to help you kind of move a little faster from gut feel guidance to strategic guidance, because it happens to everybody. It happened to me. I don't know where you guys are in this journey, but the first time you get your hands on guides, there's this tendency to over-guide, to build guides that are too long, and we really want to help you kind of jump forward. So Eric's got a tool. He's going to show you, and I'm going to hand it over to him and introduce the tool. Go for it.
So hopefully I'm not preaching to the choir here, but as a product manager talking to customers all the time about how to use guides, how to use guides the right way, what are other customers doing, et cetera, it's very easy. And what I see with these customers is they're using guides and jumping in immediately because it can be fun, right? It's actually fun to design guides and see it live in the wild when you publish it for your customers. But the problem is that when you have a solution like Pendo Guides that doesn't require the amount of like thought and intention that typically goes into any normal product development cycle, you're able to circumvent that with guides, right? That's what's so great about being able to take immediate action. But when you do that without that intentionality and without that thought, that's when we get into the dangerous territory of introducing guides that don't necessarily work towards the right outcome or do it in the right way. And so this is a little bit of a twist on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which if y'all aren't familiar, you should be familiar. It helps you achieve your full potential as a human being. And so we have created the strategic guides hierarchy of needs that should help you all just provide a very, very simple framework to make sure that the guides that you're publishing in your product are very, very impactful and driving towards the right outcomes. So you'll notice at the very bottom of the strategic guides hierarchy of needs is really the why, the foundation of what should be everything as a product professional. So at the very bottom, you have to have a clear understanding of the business outcomes or the goals that you as a business are trying to achieve, right? That's the context that you're going to be using to frame whatever it is that you're trying, whatever product experience that you're trying to build. Now, we get these from our objectives and initiatives that come from our company strategic direction, but you might get them from your OKRs. But these are the like top level planning metrics that you're looking for. The next level is actually defining the problem, right? It's very easy for us, again, to jump to the guide building part and immediately start creating content, immediately start creating themes and putting GIFs and images and being clever, which is great, and we want that. But the content is still the last piece that you need to consider. And so we want our customers to clearly define the problem that they're solving, and that's why we have product analytics. That's why we have guide analytics, to help you really frame the specific user problem or the user behavior that you're hoping to change for the better of your business and the customer themselves. And then defining the audience. The smaller and more targeted of an audience that we can create and show these guides to, the higher conversion rates we're going to have, and honestly, the better engagement that we're going to have, right? The more relevant and personalized, the less likely the guides are to be annoying. Now, the second piece is the how. So this is where you can get creative with all the different types of activation methods, all the different types and formats of guides, whether it's tooltips or banners. But the key to the how is how you're going to test the outcome, right? How are you going to test the solution to the problem that you framed and defined with data? You'll see like a common theme throughout today has been talking about conversions and experiments. And conversions was a way for us to help give our customers a tool to clearly define the goal of any given guide. And this might be a kind of a radical point of view, but I really believe that there should not be a guide that does not have a conversion defined. If you are unsure of what the goal is of your guide, put in the time and intention to working with your stakeholders and with your teams to define that outcome. Because that is probably the most important conversation that you're going to have in that whole guide building process. And then the last thing is the content. The content needs to be simple, it needs to be concise. We find that the guides that have images convert better, especially if they're moving images, right? So we don't want guides that just have text necessarily. We want guides with images, we want guides with GIFs, and we want guides with videos. Now, on your right-hand side of the screen, you can see that 60% of this hierarchy really makes up the why, right? It's the context that you're using to frame what you're putting into your product. And you'll notice also that it's not too dissimilar from the framework that you should be using as a product professional, right? The why is the foundation of everything. And when you're creating the content in these guides, you should be pretty closely mimicking this distribution of why, how, and what. We find that, again, the guides that are not necessarily telling users to click here and click this button, now upload a file, like those are nice and can be useful for a specific subset of users. But the more impactful guides are typically the ones that are shorter. And rather than telling the user where to click or where to point, they're the ones that are communicating why they should care, right? So rather than click this button, this button, this button, it's we revamped this whole feature to make it easier for you to do these 3 things. So if you're interested in finding out and seeing how we improve that process, go ahead and kick off that walkthrough, right? So make sure that you're communicating the why. The why should be the vast majority of the content. And then you should be experimenting with the how to find the right solution to that problem and make sure that the what is really concise.
That's right. All right, Eric, this is a cool tool, right? I like it, I get it. But how are you using you're the PM for this product too? So is the product solving this as well? What have you got planned? Tell us about what's coming. These people use guides. They need to know what is live today and what's on the roadmap, if you'll tell us.
It's really funny that you talk about that because I have a slide for that.
All right,
actually.
we got the roadmap.
So yeah, so we're really trying hard not to just preach these perspectives on what makes a good guide, right? We're trying our best to actually give our customers the tools and the features in the product to help frame these mindsets. So like I mentioned, conversions and experiments are a good start. They actually will begin the conversations with you and your teams about why guides are going into the product. But a lot of the other features that we have released over the last approximately 6 months and where we're headed are really focused on helping you make sure that you're building the right guides, right? So things like guide element metrics. What are people clicking on, right? Should I include a snooze button? Probably, right? But if you start to pay attention to how your users are interacting with these guides, you can fine tweak and make small changes to drive better conversion rates, right? Side-by-side building blocks is another thing that we released earlier this year to help create more visually interesting guides and help our customers align with their brand guidelines. Right now in beta, we have guide accessibility, so making sure that all users, regardless of what technologies they're using to interact with your products, are able to consume the content and understand why you're trying to get them to do certain things. And I'm also excited to talk about how next year, one of our core focuses is on helping our customers manage guides at scale, right? So a lot of you probably are plagued by the irrational fear of guiding your users to death, right? How do I make sure that if I have 200, 300 guides throughout my product, that it's not degrading the user experience in a way that no one wants? So we will be investing pretty heavily there next year, mostly focusing on what we're calling air traffic control, right? So how do you better prioritize your guides, throttle your guides, and order them to make sure that all the different stakeholders that you might be servicing to bring content in app, whether it's the marketing team or the customer success team or the product team, that everyone is heard and has the ability to give their input into actually how these guides show up in the product. So I'm excited for what next year holds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. I think a lot of you have probably already been over to Pendo Park, but Washi and I will be over there. Has anybody gotten a demo of guides over in Product Park? Yeah? Cool. All right. Come over. We'll give you some double punches. That's my secret. We'll get you guys over there. I don't know. But yeah, that is it. Washi, do you want to cover this slide? I forget what it is.
So just if you are either new to guides or want to see what the rest of the community is doing, we do have several different places to go. We have the Pendomonium Slack community, but we also just recently launched the neighborhood community. So you can go ahead and scan this QR code and start jumping into the conversation. A lot of our power users are very, very active there, sharing their knowledge about what they've learned over the years and how they deploy guides in the most effective way that they have learned. Right?
All right. Thank you, everyone. You've been a wonderful audience.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Washi.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
We're going to have a 5-minute break now, so there'll be more content coming, but you got 5 minutes. Looks like there's beer out there and everything, which is cool. So thank you, guys. Really appreciate the time.